صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We know each other, so there is no need for any introductions. We'll just get into the topic that we'll talk about today. And these days we are living the anniversary of the death and birth of Prophet Muhammad Sallallaahualayhi wa sallam. And there are different ways to measure and analyze the success, the great success of the mission of Prophet Muhammad Sallallaahualayhi wa sallam. One of them is to look at the quality of delivering the message of Islam, where the Prophet, the messenger and the message, it was very, very difficult to separate them or find differences between them. He lived the message. The other way is to look at the quality of the individuals who were raised by the Prophet Muhammad. And we often, because of some socio-political issues and historical events and pressures and different kinds of things, make us focus only on when we look at the history and the people around the Prophet, we focus only on the Imams and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Indeed, they were the greatest personnel around or came after the Prophet. But also Islam came to us in this beautiful message, and for it to be preserved and passed all these centuries. There were great characters both around the Prophet and came after him who were not from Ahlul Bayt. And today inshallah we'll talk about the story of one of the great companions who supported the Prophet and was among the very first people who believed in Islam. Yet unfortunately we don't hear about him, and it's very rare that his name got mentioned. Many reasons for that we won't go through today, but it's open inshallah during the discussion. The person that we will talk about was the first ambassador of Islam. He was among the first people to immigrate to Habasha, and he was the first one to immigrate to Medina, and he was the first one to carry the banner of Islam during the battles, and he was among the first ones who taught Islam, who made da'wah, the official ones appointed by the Prophet, and he was also among the first martyrs. His name is Musab Ibn Umair, or like the Prophet and the Sahaba would call him Musab al-Khair. He was a very young teenager at the time when the Prophet started teaching the message of Islam. At the time he was maybe 17, 18 years old. He was from a very rich family, and because he's young and many of us are also young, we're looking at this character and reflecting about its life, our life, and trying to find things that we can associate with so that it can hopefully change things in us or motivate us to go on the right path, inshallah. I mean, history is important only if we associate ourselves to its lessons and bring it to today, the challenges that we have today, and then draw some lessons from that, and then try to find some solutions to our challenges. So we look at this young character, Musab Ibn Umair, who was among the greatest Sahaba of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He came from a very rich family. He was very well known to be handsome, taking very good care of himself, wearing the best of clothes, mainly silk and gold. He used to put special perfumes. Now people put gel on their hair. He used to put a special perfumed oil on his hair, to a point that when he passes in the streets of Mecca, later on people, when they pass, they can tell that Mus'ab passed from this street, from the perfumes that he used to put. He wasn't a spoiled teenager, but everything that he wanted was given to him. His mother loved him so much that his parents would give him or try to facilitate for him anything that he would look for. But his mother was known to be a very stubborn and strong-minded woman, that even the husband wouldn't even argue and just live with a peace of mind to follow whatever she would suggest. And also Mus'ab himself, he wouldn't get himself into trouble of disputes or disagreements with his mother. So the family was living aristocratic life at the time, very rich and very powerful in Mecca. Also, the people in that society, they used to have many, what they call them, nadwa, discussion panels. And at that time, people would enjoy the attendance of Mus'ab because he used to be very wise and charismatic. And people would love to hear from his input in the discussions or the poetry that was said at the time. All this is happening in the early days of Islam, while Mus'ab was a teenager, 17, 18 years old. He heard one day about the da'wah of Prophet Muhammad Sallallaahualayhi. There is a man who's preaching something new, something different. And he had a curious mind which was always searching for something. The wealthy life that he had was not fulfilling for him. That's why he used to go and attend all those discussion panels that used to be there, searching for something which was difficult to find. So when he heard that the Prophet is holding a private meetings at the house of Daeee ibn Abi al-Arqam, so he decided that, you know what, I'll go there and I will spend few minutes and just hear from that man, what is this message that he is preaching, and the people are saying that it's that message for the slaves and for the spoiling people in the society and bringing corruption. As soon as he heard the message of Islam, it entered his heart, especially when the Prophet ﷺ was talking about God, the oneness of God, and the attributes of God, the merciful, the loving, the caring, the equality of people, the value of a human being as is, not because of the status of his tribe or because of the wealth that he has. He felt that this is the truth that he was searching for, and he fell in love, and those few minutes ended up several hours. So he believed in the message right from the first encounter with the Prophet, and he fell in love with the Prophet. But at the same time, he can't tell his family that he became a believer, because at the time it was a disgrace for certain families that one of the children or members of the family would believe in that, share his belief with the slaves and the poor people. So he thought, okay, we'll keep it personal and try to hide as much as possible until, inshallah, things will get better. However, it's very difficult to hide that, because at the time when you become a Muslim, something transforming deeply within the self, that it can't do what it used to do. So easily his mother started to notice that he won't stand up in front of the mirror for hours combing his hair and putting all those special perfumes. When he eats, he started to eat only one kind of food, because he feels the need of the poor people in Mecca and the slaves who are tortured just because they are Muslims. And also he started to disattach from the worldly life for the love of the message itself. So soon the family, first they thought maybe he's in love, you know, so his parents sat down with him, and you know what, this girl that you love, we can, even if she's in the moon, we'll bring her for you. But soon he told them that it's not any of what you think. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. This was very shocking for the mother particularly, because she felt that this is such a disgrace for the family, that you believe in that religion of the slave and you leave the religion of your forefathers. So she tried to prevent him by any possible mean, even by imprisoning him and or torturing him. And she also told him that, you know what, I'll stop from eating, so I will die unless you come back to our religion. But Musab told her, even if you have 100 lives and I see you losing them one by one, I will never ever leave the love of the Prophet and Islam and come back to that religion. Such a powerful message. So she knew that nothing will bring him back. So she kept him in prison for several weeks. And at the time he can't see people, he can't communicate. But it was a good time for him to reflect about the message in that state of solitude that he was living alone in his room, feeling the captives, the slaves, the poor, the needy, the greatness of this message that's coming to everybody equally, and trying to solve their problems and lift their spirit. And it didn't take long before he was able to escape from that prison that his mother was putting for him, and spend most of the time living with the Prophet and with the Muslims. However, at the time he was so poor to an extent that the only cloth he has is a piece of skin of a sheep. That's the only thing he has to cover himself, to an extent that his skin was peeling from the tough life that he was living. And the Sahaba, when he would pass by, they would lower their gazes out of feeling pity for him and remembering how he used to live before, with the silk and gold and the perfumes and all the different kinds of things, and now his skin is peeling and he's just wearing a skin of a sheep. And the Prophet ﷺ, just to please him and reward him for that, he said, indeed I have seen him. There was no teenager, la fata, at the time who was as much entertaining the being within his family like him. But look, for the love of God, what he gave up and how he became. And it was such a certificate from the Prophet towards him. The torture of the Muslims increased at the time, and then the Prophet was trying to find solutions for them so that they spread the message and don't get killed. So he advised them, those who can, to immigrate to Al-Habasha, where there is a just ruler who is a Najashi. So he wrote with them a letter to a Najashi, and 15 people, one of them from among them was Musab Ibn Umair, decided to immigrate to Habasha. They lived there for 3 months peacefully before Quraysh started to make trouble for them in Habasha, and then try to make people revolt against Najashi. So different incidents happened, made the Muslims after 3 months feel it's better for them to come back to Mecca, because they heard that many great personals from the Quraysh became Muslims, and maybe there will be a truce between the Prophet and them, and they will stop torturing the Muslims. So we better come back to our land and relieve Najashi from this obligation to protect us, because his people were complaining and accusing him of changing his religion for those immigrants coming from Mecca. So he came back. When they came back to Mecca, they found that actually Muslims were more tortured. So a few of them decided, you know what, we won't enter Mecca, we'll go back to Habasha. But Mus'ab and few, they said, we'll be with the Prophet and feel the pain of the Muslims, no matter how difficult it will be for us. And they spent a few years, maybe 2-3 years, like that, trying to spread the message, live with the Prophet, learn the teachings of Islam, until 1 year 6 people from Medina came to Mecca, and the Prophet took that chance to speak Islam to them. And as soon as they heard the message of Islam, they felt its transforming power, and they felt the sweetness of Islam, and told the Prophet, you know what, us in Medina, Aus and Khazraj are always fighting, and there is nobody other than you and this message to stop that. They came next year at the time of Hajj too, and they were 12 at the time, and they asked the Prophet to send with them a teacher who will teach the people in Medina Islam. Now this was a very important strategic decision to be made, because for the Prophet and the Muslims at the time, Mecca is becoming very difficult to stay, or for the message to spread, because of the persecutions and the torture and the war that Quraysh is waging on the Muslims. The Prophet tried to go to Ta'if, but unfortunately he wasn't received well, and people were stoning him. They tried immigrating to Habasha, far away. Yemen is not possible, because not long time ago the whole story of Al-Fil and Abraha and the revenge they have towards the Muslims. So the only place in which Muslims can go and for the message to spread is Yathrib. Therefore, choosing the right person is very important at the time, and his success will affect the whole message and the whole motion of Islam at the time. There was many great Sahaba, elders, wise people around the Prophet, but he didn't choose any one of them. He chose the young Musab Ibn Umair for this task. Musab was the best choice, first because of his sincerity, second because he lived the transforming power of Islam. It took him from one world to another. He knows how this message can affect a human being and make him sensible towards his fellow human beings. And also a third reason is that Mus'ab had this care, ham, to spread Islam always and to teach it. And these are very important things that the one who works in da'wah should have. Living the message, feeling its sweetness, not the talks, because the talks at the lung level won't be effective, but rather the feelings of the real transforming message is what was needed to be transmitted. And no better than Musab was chosen for that. So Musab went with one called As'ad or Sa'ad ibn Zurara. He was also a young man from Yathrib, from the 12 people who came. He lived with him, and Musab started teaching Islam to Sa'ad and to the other people in Medina. So he started to move from one house to another in Medina. And one day they were at a garden that belongs to some relatives to the great chiefs of tribes at the time, Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh and Usayd ibn Hudayr. And somebody from those who doesn't like the message and against what Musab is doing ran to Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh and told him, you know what, there is these two teenagers, they are manipulating the minds of people of your tribe and in Medina, so you better stop them. So Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh felt very angry. How come that's happening, I mean, in our neighborhood, and these people are doing and manipulating the minds of people? But Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh was cousin of Sa'ad ibn Zurara, the one whom Musab is staying at his place. So he told Usayd ibn Hudayr, you know what, you go and take care of these two individuals, because Sa'ad is my cousin and I cannot offend my cousin. So Usayd came and he started scolding them and attacking them, and then he told them, if you want life, you better leave this place. So Musab looked at him. He saw that he's a nice, wise guy, but he has been misinformed. So he told him, well, listen, what about you sit down and hear what we say? If you like it, that's good. If you don't like it, we'll never say it and we'll just leave. He said, well, fair enough. And it shows the sincerity of that man. I mean, there are people now whom you tell them, well, let me just talk to you. No matter what you would tell them, they are against what you do. They will never ever listen. But people at the time, they were open to hear the message and listen and then think about it and then decide. And this is the nature of all the sincere people. And Usayd was one of them. So he sat down and Musab started reciting verses from the Quran. And while Musab is talking, Usayd was like, and people were looking at him. He was like, and his face was changing. The beauty of the message of Islam started to reflect on his face. And as soon as Musab finished, he said one thing: if a man wants to be in your religion, what he should do? So Musab told him, you go take ghusl, tatatahhar, and then you clothe you clean your clothes, وتطهر ثيابك, and then you say أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد, and then you do 2 rak'ah nafila. Directly that man, he went home, he did ghusl, he's the chief of his tribe. He's not an average man. He's old and he was listening to this young. Let me hear what he's saying. But it instantaneously transformed his heart. Now look at what happened. So he did all that and came back. So he did ghusl, he washed his clothes, and then he did shahada and 2 rak'ah and came back. As soon as he became Muslim, he wants to spread that message. So he told them, you know what, I have a friend who sent me actually to offend you and kick you out. If he becomes a Muslim, all his tribe will become Muslims. So I'll send him to you and you take care of him. Musab said, okay. So Usaid go back to his friend Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, who was the chief of the tribe of Bani al-Ashhal at the time. As soon as Usaid came, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh was sitting with his tribe, and he told them, listen, he came with a different face. Something has changed. So Usaid ibn Hudayr came and he asked him, okay, so what did you do? He said, you know what, I listened to what they said, but there is a group who will attack your cousin and they might kill him because they don't like what he's doing. So Sa'd ibn Mu'adh became very angry, because nobody can touch the cousins at the time, and even now for some people. So he said, such a useless guy, you didn't do anything. I have to go and sort this out. So he took his spear and he went to Musab and Usaid. He didn't find anybody attacking them. So he knew it was a trick from his friend. He wanted him to listen to what Musab is preaching. So Sa'd ibn Mu'adh came and he started scolding them and then offending them and telling them that you have to leave our places, otherwise if you want to keep your life, then you have to leave right away. Sa'd, the friend of Mus'ab, told him, listen, this guy is the chief of his tribe. If he becomes a Muslim, all his tribe will become Muslims. So Mus'ab told him, well, what about you listen to what we hear? If you like it, that's good. If you don't like it, we'll never say something in a place where it belongs to you that you don't like. He said, fair enough. I'm soft. So he sat down and Mus'ab started reciting the first verses of Surah I forgot I forget the surah. So he started reciting the verses of the surah, and then the same effect. There was a feeling, a relieving feeling that came to Sa'd ibn Mu'adh when he was listening to the Quran. And then Mus'ab started talking about Islam. And each time, the more he talks, the face of Sa'd ibn Mu'adh at the time would change, and the belief, the sweetness of liking the message would reflect directly on his face. And as soon as Mus'ab finished, he said one thing: if a man wants to believe in this religion, what he should do? And then Mus'ab said the same. You just تتطهر ثيابك تشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله, and then you do 2 rak'ah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Many lessons that can, be analyzed from here, but our focus is on the story itself. But that important to be open, to listen. And this was one of the greatest point of the Sahaba at the time. They listened to what was said. They thought about it, they believed in it, and it was transforming for them. This thing is unfortunately missing at the time. Very few actually listen. So, long story short, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh later on will become one of the greatest people in Islam. And actually, when he was martyred, the angels, it was in his janazah and his funeral, there was so much angels that the Prophet was walking on his toes. And people would ask him, because he said, Zahmat al-Malaika, for Sa'd ibn Mu'adh. He never thought, I'm the chief of the tribe, and what is this teenager who's coming to teach me? No, he listened to the message itself. And because his heart was pure, it was able to touch deeply his heart. In the same night, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh gathered all his tribe and said, listen, who am I for you? He brought Mus'ab with him. They said, well, you are our chief and trusted one. He said, well, I believe in this. Listen to it and believe in it. And all his tribe listened and believed in Islam. It didn't take long, Mus'ab. 1 year he was able to spread Islam in every house of in Medina, and then he would come back in the second meeting, Al-Aqaba Thaniya, the second Aqaba, to meet the Prophet with 72 people, 70 men and 2 courageous believers, females, who came to pledge allegiance to the Prophet, to see him, to hear directly from him, and then to pledge allegiance that they will protect him no matter what happens, and please just come from this Mecca to Medina. Musab prepared the whole infrastructure. Everything was ready for the coming of the Muhajirin and for the Prophet. Islam was spreading in Medina. By the time the Prophet came to Medina, almost everybody was believing in Islam. And all started with this young believer who was Musab ibn Umair. The story goes on, and then at the time of Ghazwat Badr, the Prophet, it was the first battle, and normally the people who would take the banner would be very courageous, very strong, and very sincere believers. Therefore the Prophet ﷺ gave his banner to Imam Ali, and then the banner of Muhajirin to Musab ibn Umair, and the banner of Al-Aws or Al-Khazraj to Sa'd ibn Mu'adh himself. And they fought a very brave battle, and alhamdulillah, Muslims won that battle. Things continued on, and then the second attack of Quraysh on the Muslims was in Ghazwat Uhud. And we know the whole story of the bowmen who didn't obey the Prophet, and then how things unfolded later on. But in this specific Ghazwa, the Prophet also gave the banner to Musab ibn Umair. And then at the very difficult time of the battle, when the Prophet was cornered, and there was very few people with him, when the tide turned against the Muslims, and many of the Sahaba ran away, very few people stood fast to defend the Prophet and Islam at the time. There was Imam Ali alayhi salam, and there was a Sahabi called Abu Dujana, and then there was Musab ibn Umair. When the attack was very heavy, because the major goal for the Quraysh was to kill the Prophet. So because he's carrying the flag, he thought, okay, what is the best thing that I can do to reduce the attack of the Prophet? It was by signaling the flag stronger to get the attentions of the Quraysh so that they attack him instead of the Prophet. And the Qurayshis, they knew, if you, kill the one who's carrying the flag, it's like you won the battle. So that sincere act of Musab actually got the attentions of Quraysh, and they started to attack him. Of course, alone with very few believers, where most of the Sahaba, they ran away. He was outnumbered, and then he was killed. As soon as he was killed, the banner fell on the ground, and the Prophet saw that, so he directly sent Imam Ali alayhi salam to lift the banner, and then the battle fighting continued until it was equalized, and then the Muslims came back, and then the Prophet started searching for the Sahaba and passing by the martyred ones. So when they came to Musab, at the time when they were killing him, he was saying Muhammad, Muhammad, until the last minute in his life. And then when they came to bury him, he was so poor that the only thing he had was a piece of cloth that can't cover his full body. If they pull it up to cover his face, his foot will show. If they pull it down to cover his feet, his face would show. So they went to the Prophet and told him, so how can we do kafan to Musab? And he said, pull the piece up and cover his face and put some grass on his feet. So this was the end of this sincere Sahabi, Musab Ibn Umair, who went through a complete transformation from that young, spoiled teenager wearing the silk and the gold and the perfumes, to a man who's caring about Islam and Muslims and the Prophet and spreading the message of Islam and sacrificing with his life for that. Now today, for us to look at that story, reflect about it and bring it to the actual life that we have, many questions pop up. Questions like, the real effect of Islam on us, did it actually transform us? Do we really feel the sweetness of the message? If we feel it, how much care we have towards this message? And how much pressure and torture or whatever negative things can come to us, we can stand before we give up. And also, how much sincere we are in what we do and to give. Many of these thoughts can come to us while analyzing this story, but at the end, in order to be affected, we need to find different parts of this character, for example, of his life, and then try to associate with them and see how much they can affect us. His spirit, his courageous, his zuhd. Each one is living a different life, and the points that he can focus on will be different. And by this I end the talk, and inshallah we can open discussion. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Very first people who believed in Islam, yet unfortunately we don't hear about him, and it's very rare that his name got mentioned. Many reasons for that we won't go through today, but it's open inshallah during the discussion. The person that we will talk about was the first ambassador of Islam. He was among the first people to immigrate to Habasha, and he was the first one to immigrate to Medina, and he was the first one to carry the banner of Islam during the battles, and he was among the first ones who taught Islam, who made da'wah, the official ones appointed by the Prophet, and he was also among the first martyrs. His name is Musab Ibn Umair, or like the Prophet and the Sahaba would call him Musab al-Khair. He was a very young teenager at the time when the Prophet started teaching the message of Islam. At that time he was maybe 17, 18 years old. He was from a very rich family, and because he's young, and many of us are also young, we're looking at this character and reflecting about its life, our life, and trying to find things that we can associate with so that it can hopefully change things in us or motivate us to go on the right path, inshallah. I mean, history is important only if we associate ourselves to its lessons and bring it to today, the challenges that we have today, and then draw some lessons from that, and then try to find some solutions to our challenges. So we look at this young character Musab Ibn Umair. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We know each other, so there is no need for any introductions. We'll just get into the topic that we'll talk about today. And these days we are living the anniversary of the death and birth of Prophet Muhammad Sallallaahualayhi wa sallam. And there are different ways to measure and analyze the success, the great success of the mission of Prophet Muhammad Sallallaahualayhi wa sallam. One of them is to look at the quality of delivering the message of Islam, where the Prophet, the messenger and the message, it was very, very difficult to separate them or find differences between them. He lived the message. The other was among the greatest Sahaba of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He came from a very rich family. He was very well known to be handsome, taking very good care of himself, wearing the best of clothes, mainly silk and gold. He used to put special perfumes. Now people put gel on their hair. He used to put a special perfumed oil on his hair, to a point that when he passes in the streets of Mecca, later on people, when they pass, they can tell that Mus'ab passed from this street, from the perfumes that he used to put. He wasn't a spoiled teenager, but everything that he wanted was given to him. His mother loved him so much that his parents would give him or try to facilitate for him anything that he would way is to look at the quality of the individuals who were raised by the Prophet Muhammad. And we often, because of some socio-political issues and historical events and pressures and different kinds of things, make us focus only on when we look at the history and the people around the Prophet, we focus only on the Imams and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Indeed, they were the greatest personnel around or came after the Prophet. But also Islam came to us in this beautiful message, and for it to be preserved and passed all these centuries. There were great characters both around the Prophet and came after him, who were not from Ahlul Bayt. And today, inshallah, we'll talk about the story of one of the great companions who supported the Prophet and was among the